the game that we'll have on next is between Matthew O'Connor and Adam Logan. So we've got a treat for you coming up
Wow.
right now, and both of them very, very strong players. So what do you kind of know about either of those players, Jesse?
It's definitely a generational clash. Adam is one of the best of that prior generation, and Matt is kind of the wave of players who came in and who grew up in the time of computer use, computer analysis. So it'll be a cool stylistic clash.
Exactly. We're both going to be wide awake right now with our coffees. So, but it looks like they're about to start playing. And yeah, don't forget, if you enjoy this content, go ahead and follow this channel. And if you want to know more about Scrabble, go to wordgamesplayers.org. It looks like Adam is going first. So what has he got? He's got some interesting tiles here.
He's got Canuck, very
Yeah, he wants
apropos.
to get spelled out, but that is
Was
not.
that on purpose? Do you think he's that cheeky? I guess we'll find out.
Maybe he's trying to say something to the viewers here.
If he could change one of his tiles, he could have Felucca,
Yes,
which
that's
is
true.
some kind of a boat or sailing vessel, I do believe.
Yes, that's if the N was an L. That is Felucca.
Not actually a useful commentary comment, but one has to amuse oneself.
Yeah, but in terms of words that he actually can play, he has Cauf, Cauf, lined up on his right, keeping Cen, which is actually pretty strong. So
Can
it's
you say
getting
that one more time? I want to hear the British pronunciation of that, as opposed to
Cauf, Cauf,
cough,
Cauf,
coffee.
Coffee. That's what I got right
Sounds
now.
like the New York British hybrid there.
So yeah, looks like Adam just played Cauf for 18, which does not take an S. I believe this is a Collins only word as well. Putting the U above or below the double word square.
And at this level, with this caliber of player, both of them, it'd be pretty surprising if either of them threw an S on cough. I would
Yes.
say your expectation, if you don't know these players, frankly, Adam probably knows the dictionary through and throughout, or at least did so at some point in time and probably remembers most of it. Matt, um, as a top expert, also in first place in the tournament, as you can see, he's going to know the hooks on the threes and fours by memory. And yeah, so it would be surprising if either of them put an S on cough. The plural is
That's right.
actually CAUVES, CAUVES, for whatever reason.
That's right. That's right. And then we actually commented in the game with Matthew O'Connor yesterday, where he actually played DEEV and didn't know or maybe we didn't know the hook, the E hook to it. But he's about to play Poi, which is actually a very good choice of move here. Scoring 18 points. Another option would have been playing Pavia underneath the U and the F of Corf, making up an FA for 27, but that opens up the triple. But this is a nice play here.
Interesting. I wonder what Matthew's goals are for this game, because given Adam's fearsome word knowledge, as previously discussed, it's possible Matthew may want to be gumming up the board. And Poi, it's not totally a blocking play because you could play a bingo right now, hooking spa, or you can put an S on the end of poise. So it's not 100% blocked, but Adam kind of needs an S to be able to play off all his tiles. So interesting if this is kind of a strategic decision by Matthew to deliberately try to get to a more closed board and see what he can do.
Yes, and Adam has just played Jar for 12 points. Actually, is one of the best players available according to the engine. The engine actually kind of suggests to play something like jounced, something a bit longer, getting rid of more consonants, but it does open the triple. So again, it might not necessarily be, uh, statistically the best play overall. But this still looks like a very very strong play. It actually jammed up the board even more, and still require an S to play anything generally. But the thing is that Matthew does have an H. You can put an H on the end of the on the C of course, and potentially make it work that way. He could even do something like REH, and then set up his X underneath that. So something like that might be something that he's looking at. But whatever he opens up is likely that Adam will try and play somewhere along wherever he just plays next.
Yeah, Jure is a bit of a fake out. If I were Matthew, I'd be thinking, oh, he totally has an S and he's setting himself up. So, wow, that was a quick move. He played the Re, which I find quite volatile. Oh, I see what he's doing. He thinks I think he's setting up his X because now he
Yes,
can play
yes,
Vex for 56. And if he's inferred that Adam is likely to bingo and that Adam has an S, he might be waiting for Adam to play something hooking poise, play a bingo, and then be able to respond with Vex for 56. So interesting choice.
yeah, that's very true. And any kind of five-letter word towards the triple, just above the R. So if you can put the A, E, O, or U there, actually still gives him the E hook, no matter what. So he's probably thinking about that as well. Adam has he drawn into anything? I don't think he has a bingo here. No, he doesn't have a bingo here, but he can do something. Actually, what could he do here? Oh, he has enticed, right? But it doesn't actually fit.
Right. The problem with Rech, I have no idea how to pronounce that word. I think it's Maori, if I'm not mistaken. But it is going to give up considerable points. So Adam can place something like sighted underneath, or he could play de-ice
Yes.
to the top of ER. Although de-ice is going to allow Vex, so it'll be interesting to see how defensive minded Adam is right here. And Adam wants to bingo himself. He may play enteric here for 36 through the R as a double double. But yeah, Adam may be thinking, oh, I'm just going to play off a couple letters. Maybe he'll just play DE and Ed, DE, and Che, and try to keep CEINT, and actually try to put himself in a position of bingo next turn instead of taking the points right away. I think he should take the points, actually, but I'd be very curious what he does here.
Yeah, so enteric is a very good option here. 36 points. De-ice is what you also mentioned, Jesse, which is 35. Another option also is to actually play centered for 40, keeping an I. That actually would still give back the X that Matthew has. And it looks like he's going for the points here. So,
Very nice.
yeah, very nice play. The highest scoring play. Matthew playing rare, trying to set up his X. He still gets to play it anyway here. Looks like he's probably still going to play Vex, I guess. I'm not really sure there's anything else better than that.
Oh,
Um,
Vex leaves very good letters too. ABELN. That ubble suffix is actually something I've learned over the years. Is that's a pretty good. That's especially if there are letters on the board to play through. That's a pretty powerful combination.
yes, and actually Vex kind of jams up the board a bit more again. So with those good tiles that Matthew's going to play, you probably would say most likely Adam will try and use the triple with the T of centered. He might actually even just play WO next to centered now, next to the E and the N for 28 points. But we're going to see what he does if he wants to try and carve out an opening himself, or if he's just going to wait for Matthew to open up the board.
What do you think of centered keeping an I versus enteric keeping a D? Do you think what would you do as a former former champion. I'm going to try to enforce our credibility here by
I'm
mentioning your
actually also, yeah,
laurels.
I'm also the current champion, just so if you're forgetting. Uh, um,
That's right. Yes, there are so many We're kind of like boxing folks with the proliferation of organizations and major
yeah,
events. But you are watching what is objectively just about the biggest money event in the world this year. So
but yeah, Enteric, I think probably slightly better defensively. Maybe it doesn't give away. I mean, big spots next to the ease of centered. It is 4 points less, but Enteric also does give away potentially a much bigger score with to the triple because the E would be where the T is now. So that's probably might be what probably swings it a bit more for playing centered. And also, center doesn't really allow any kind of parallel players going upwards where the C is right now, where Enteric would allow like a five-letter word going up from the E. But yeah, it looks like Adam played Woe in the end, trying I think just going for some points, and Matthew has opened up the board a little bit more, playing Blent.
the Lambo is revving into gear here. He wasted no time on that one.
Yeah,
He's
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. There wasn't too many things, I guess, to think about. This, I mean, the board is still pretty blocked, but Adam is close to a bingo here, but doesn't have anything, I believe.
That Z. I mean, his rack looks like a dream, but the power tiles and your bingo tiles often don't go so well together. So he kind of needs to dump that Z somewhere. Ideally, he'd love to score with it and then bingo, but failing that, he may just be playing the Z for. He may be doing what we call a fish, just playing the Z for 21 to maximize his chances of being able to play all his letters next turn. Or the chat mentions resize for 50 points to the E, and that's uh, yeah, that's would you take that's a classic uh, bird in the hand versus two in the bush kind of scenario. Do you take resize for 50 here versus the
Uh,
almost guaranteed bingo after just playing ZE?
um, So just because that the S is worth so much, because you can start a bingo with an S with jaws, and you can end a bingo with an S for poise. So I think there's a good chance that you can get a bingo down if you can fish off the Z. So I probably will play off the Z ZE, so on the E of Blent. I will throw out another option here is to play ZEL on the L of Blent for 32, which kind of does something in between. It scores a little bit more than ZE, but kind of adds a bit more volatility than that as well. But obviously less volatility than resize and scoring less than that also. So you kind of have a little scale here of three different things that you can do. And it's really a matter of how often you think you can bingo on the next turn. And I feel like ZE probably will almost, I say not almost guarantee, but he's most likely more often than not going to bingo if you just put ZE down. And yeah, I think that's probably what I would do.
We, unlike Adam, have a sneak peek at Matthew's rack, and we know that a lot of points are about to go down. Wow, and yeah, gutsy decision taking Z for 21. Very cute. This is the kind of classic computer position that would be able to tell us Z versus resize. I think I might take the points for 50 myself. Uh,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
actually, Matthew has not. I thought Matthew would be flipping over his tiles almost instantaneously here, and the fact that he's not is concerning me. He has Bride Man from the B, which is a little bit of a silly looking word, but very much something in the probability range I would expect him to know. And he is going for it. Okay,
He's
I
doing
guess
it.
he must have had maybe a microcosm of doubt in there that he has gone for it. Very nice.
Yes, the score's 92 points, and he is going pretty far into the lead right now. He'll be 90 points ahead. And Adam, did he pick out an M? Is that right? So
That
he
is a
has.
M is in Malta.
Yes. So he does have a bingo as well. So Minters, I guess, and Poise. Is that the play here?
That's about what I see. But don't take my word for it, certainly.
I mean, I think there's no bingo starting with an S for Jaws. I don't think there's any bingos with any of the flutters with man, M-A-N, that Matthew just played. So Minters or Remints, I think, are the only possible bingos in the spot that he is playing in. And not putting the R in the triple lane where the M is right now is probably a smart decision because it's a lot easier to bingo with the R than the M. So this will get Adam 74 points, and it's pretty much almost level again.
For the moment, but
For the moment, yeah.
Matthew has very nice
Oh,
tiles, and he's going to waste no time.
Lambo is off into the distance almost at this rate.
Wow. He really, this is kind of vintage Matthew O'Connor. 19 minutes, 46 seconds on the clock. Very, very rare that you can look at Adam and speed rush him, but we kind of have seen that. But Adam, with another huge draw, he wastes no time.
Oh,
He's
wow.
he's feeling hungry today, folks.
Yeah, he sure is. He's
True
got
true
goulash.
story on this word. I grew up thinking that goulash was spelled with two H's, like Ghoulash, because of a. I had a children's joke book that asked, "What is a ghost's favorite meal?" And the answer was goulash, Ghoulash. So allow me to indulge in a. I didn't realize that until several years in my Scrabble career that this is the spelling. But Adam did not read such books and immediately throws down a huge response.
Yes, and that gets 88 points, which actually puts him 10 points into the lead. We actually do have um, a, a, a comment in the chat asking Hook S from the Deadly Gamesman. I guess that is talking about dialings, which is a word. So we'll have to see if anyone is going to pull the trigger on that. There's actually still two S's and two blanks unseen. Adam actually has the S on his rack, so he could play something like Skype whenever the looks like he has that kind of lined up, ready to go for potentially the next turn. Um, so yeah, we'll see if anyone actually wants to do that. Again, we don't know if how well they know their nines, but we'll see in due course. But it's still Matthew's turn right now, and yeah, what is he going to do?
Yeah, there were people watching the games yesterday feeling like things were just too defensive. Then we've got the remedy right here because it is wide open. There's a ton of options. Uh, this is if he's been playing very fast on previous turns, it's to buy himself time on a multifaceted turn like this to really think through the options.
Yes, exactly. And we kind of talked about the games that we commentated on yesterday with you know Matthew Tunnicliffe, who took a bunch of minutes on a few moves in the middle of the game, and then he kind of ran a bit low on time. And we also saw Dave Wiegand yesterday as well. At the end of the day, kind of running out of time because it was a very technical affair. But yeah, whenever you can kind of come up with a very strong move and straight, then maybe it's just better just to play it off straight away and not waste time. Both these players are obviously very quick, but yeah, we're like almost halfway through the game, and I think we just probably passed halfway through the game, and Matthew's kind of taking a bit more time to think about this move. And he's opted for Eggy for 39. Other options would include players like Moby, Mobey, in the top right, using that M of Minters, or even using that M of Minters again, but going downwards to the right of it, playing Yogi, which actually would kind of jam up that dialings hook. But we'll see if Adam wants to play dialings here. Again, I'm pretty sure that he would know dialings with two L's because you can also spell it with one L. So I think you might be able to deduce that. It might help you a bit more in this case. But he does have Skype kind of lined up in the middle of his rack right now, and we'll see if he wants to go for it.
We
And
can't define Skype for you on air. You got to look that one up, folks.
yeah, you just have to find that yourself. Just do a Google search.
Is Adam pondering this one, or is Matthew holding him? What's going on here?
I think it's a challenge. It's a challenge now. I think Matthew's going to challenge it. I think it was a hold, and Matthew was deciding to give some points in the end.
Yeah,
Yes.
very reasonable. Our challenge rule for this tournament, and I'm hesitating because there's slightly different challenge rules depending on what dictionary you play, but it will cost you 5 points to look up a word if you are incorrect, but if you correctly sniff out an opponent's fake word, then they have to take the word off the board and they lose their turn. So there's a massive asymmetry that heavily incentivizes challenging if you're even a little bit unsure. And yes, he earns the nickel, as our broadcast would have it. 5 points extra to Adam Logan, giving him a slightly larger lead.
Yes, and as well as Skype, there actually were some other options that could play down there, like Softy, Softy, doubling the Y as well, or playing Skody, Skody. So there were some other options playable that were probably almost or as good as Skype, if you want to do that. As well as if you wanted to potentially block that E hook for poise as well. That's in the middle of the board. 5-letter word would have probably have done that. But Skype again, very strong play as always from Adam Logan.
Yeah, I wonder if he even considered those alternatives. He looked pretty locked in on Skype, as you've chosen to pronounce it. But yeah, very solid. When in doubt, one of the principles of Scrabble rack management is you generally want to get rid of your highest point tiles, and Adam did that, got rid of the F, K, and Y, and kept a DOT, which is, if not spectacular, at least a tractable starting point for next turn.
Yes, and I think I spoke to him all about like one of the games that we played in like one of the nationals or something, and then I asked him like, "What do you think you should have done? What should I have done to potentially done better in this game?" And he actually kind of talked about not wanting to get rid of all of his vowels and consonants, if possible, during a game and during a move. So it's possible that he wanted to keep that O as insurance for following moves, even though there are actually quite a number of vowels still unseen to him, especially with a 4-tile or even a 5-tile play that he would ended up doing if he got rid of the O. So it's quite possible that he wanted to keep that O as insurance, which actually would fit in with what he said to me a number of years back. But in the meantime, Matthew just played Boom, taking out that triple lane of where that M of Mint is at the top of the board. And it also blocks the potential Q spot for QI with dialings and Minters, those two I's for 62, which is still unseen to both players right now. It's still in the bag somewhere.
Yeah, they will, if they've had time, given that they're playing so frenetically, they will have done a bit of an assessment of the major remaining power tiles and whether there are any especially good spots for each of them. The Q still has a U to play through at the top left. But yes, that QI spot, Matthew's staring into the camera, trying to listen in on what we're talking about. But that QI spot was a source of volatility, which Matthew may actually have wanted to keep in place ideally, given that he's slightly down on points. But he made that move very quickly, which is the ability to make moves fast with a blank in hand is almost alarming to me because there are so many options you have to consider. The blank could be any of those tiles, and being able to bingo with the blank is a could be a huge amount of points. But he confidently plays boom for 24, and unfortunately, Matthew was kind of punished by getting three more vowels to fill out his rack. Might be a bit of a longer quest. And for Adam at this point, the score is almost level, and he plays kind of a blocking play here for maybe soundly, because he's looking at the board and saying, "Wait a second, there are two blanks out there, and I have neither of them." So he's probably probabilistically thinking Matthew is fairly likely to have a blank of his own, and yeah, so Adams decided to. It's not a star play. Keeping the V is never great, but he's kind of jammed up the works there, and he is not rewarded with a blank though. So Adam would really love to get at least one of the two blanks in the next coming turns, and I predict he might play over, or he might turn over a bunch of tiles chasing after that blank.
Yeah, it's a very good point. There's no blanks played yet, and Adam doesn't know that Matthew has one of them.
He
But
suspects it, though. I guarantee you, he suspects it.
his spidey senses again, kind of going off here, knowing that something could hit him very very soon. But at the same time, I will say something very interesting as well. When he played Duro, from his point of view, there's 28 tiles on scene, so there'll be 21 in the bag. So out of those 28 tiles, obviously there's two of those blanks, but there's actually, I believe, 16 vowels unseen and 10 consonants unseen. So it's a huge bias towards vowels that are still left in the bag. And you can see that already with the pickup that Adam just got with a lot more vowels, and obviously the abundance of vowels that Matthew has in his rack. So we should be expecting to see a lot more vowels coming real soon. And this board is not particularly too great for scoring many points with vowels. So it could come down, or it's very likely to come down to whoever picks up the blanks and whoever can bingo next and do very well with those vowels in hand.
Yeah, that's a great point. And they know they're doing something called tile tracking. The distribution of tiles in the Scrabble bag, you may never have thought about it, but there's 100 tiles and it's deterministic, down to there being two blanks and 42 vowels versus 56 consonants. And they know that they're heading into an impending vowel crunch here, and they're both going to maneuver to avoid it, but they also need to score points while doing so. So it's going to be a generous. Generous is not the word I was looking for. Delicate. There we go. It's going to be a delicate dance between trying to avoid the flood of vowels, but also scoring points, because ultimately that's how you win the game. And Matthew's in a pretty tight spot here, down 16, needs to bingo as quickly as possible. Yeah, what is he going to do here?
Oh, actually, he's down 25, if my math is right. So he's actually even further behind than even you said.
Oh,
But
my apologies.
it's early. It's still early. But yeah, he's got a lot of obviously a lot of vowels here. There are a few options that he can play. So the Deadly Gamesman actually wrote this in the chat, saying about Zia, Zea, and Raya, getting rid of two of those vowels. Obviously, unduplicating those I's, which would obviously be good. At the same time, he doesn't really have a great way to bingo if he gets rid of that A. But there are still four A's and five E's unseen to him currently. So it's probably quite likely he's going to pick out one of those tiles. Also, there's options to play Tiki or Tika through the T of Minters and the K of Skyfe near the top right corner. But that does open up a very volatile spot for an S hook. And it does look like Matthew has played Raya, which is a bit more of a defensive option than Tiki or Tika, which is definitely understandable. But that scores 19 points, and he ends up picking the P and the E. So that's at least he's a bit closer. But also don't forget there isn't a hook for EXO, and that could potentially end up being a bingo lane as well if you could start a bingo with DO.
I wonder why Matthew didn't play Tiki there, because there's only one other S and the other blank unseen. And he knows he has a blank in hand that he's trying to optimize. So I I wonder why he didn't uh, create the advantage for himself. Maybe he's scared of Adam having an S of his own, or the blank. But I feel like that might he might come back to rue that as a missed chance to take the initiative.
Yes, that's definitely a good point. And also with Adam playing Duro, you probably wouldn't expect him to keep a V. So he might be doing some kind of thing, we call it inference. You're trying to make a guess of kind of what range your opponent might be holding on their rack and based on their last move or series of moves. So he might be thinking, oh, he just played Duro. He's got some 1 point tiles and he must be close to something. But at the same time, Duro just blocked up a whole bunch of the board. So it might be possible that you could make the assumption that he doesn't have an S or a blank, and he's probably running a bit scared also, based on what's on scene to him. So you could kind of make an argument for going either way, and obviously, inference is a bit of a guessing game, but um, yeah, I mean, you should try and get a bingo down whenever you can, and try and kill the game off if you have the opportunity to do so. Because if you wait even longer, Adam might end up picking up that S or blank, and then that spot is no longer really there for just for you.
Yeah, you can see both of our players really starting to sink into their clocks now. Really, this is why they banked that time earlier, because this is where the game gets super complex. A lot of factors to mix into your decision making. And for Adam here, that play of two vowels that he's just witnessed for 19 points is nothing but ominous. He knows Matthew must have at least one of the blanks, probably dealing with the vowel crunch, and he has to make a really tough call here between either he could try to flip over a bunch of tiles and try to acquire a blank of his own. He could fish. He could play something shorter. Maybe he could play Ave somewhere on the board and try to keep AENT and just hope that he pulls the remaining S or blank and that the rack completes nicely. But this is a tough, and he's played Juve in D, so that's kind of the route he's going. I actually don't know where he could have played if he wanted to play off more tiles, but it's a bit of a gamble here, because if the rack doesn't turn into a bingo and he doesn't pull the blank and Matthew bingos himself, Adam will be at a massive disadvantage.
That's right, yeah, and obviously getting rid of those three tiles of VAE is probably optimal, but he just picked up AWE, so it's pretty much just as bad. But yeah, he could have played. I mean, the only other place he could have played was playing Ave on the F of Skype and FA, putting the E right next to the triple word square. So that was potentially an option, but a very dangerous one. He could also play VAV on the V of Vex. The static analyzer is also going for Eve, EAVE in that same spot next to the Y and the F of Skype. But that's, again, too dangerous, in my opinion. But yeah, something like Juve or Juvia actually blocks up the Q. The main Q spot to play on this board is now blocked, and currently neither of them have the Q. And that's going to be a factor as well. And whoever picks up the cube might end up losing the game, because there's actually only 12 tiles left, and it's kind of a bit of a balance now in terms of, do I go for tile turnover? I'm looking from Adam's point of view. Do I go for tile turnover and get that blank, or do I end up potentially making the mistake of turning over tiles and picking the Q? So now there's a good and bad thing that's actually going to be um, more ominous, as you said, as the game goes on. Something is going to have to give eventually.
Yeah, this is getting more and more complicated. Billy Nakamura in the chat has spotted an interesting play with Adam's W. He can play waif through the if on the board, making we and jar. That's actually a huge score. That'd be 29.
Yeah.
It's really great when your fishing plays, as in the short plays you make trying to set yourself up for bingo. It's really great when they also score a lot of points. So those small edges could be the decider. But I agree, the Q is a huge lurking threat. And actually, the players might get to a point here where they try to turn over as few tiles as possible, just trying to dodge that Q. Although Matthew has a U on his rack, so the Q is actually not an unwelcome companion here. And
Ooh,
Adam immediately slaps down Wade. Billy, good spot.
very good spot with Wave. Yeah, VoIP again, keeping the U in case he does pick up the Q, but he doesn't have that problem right now. He actually picked up the S in the blank. So it looks like Matthew is going to bingo here. Again, you were two blanks. He's got 8 minutes to think about it.
Oh,
Adam
wow.
again, doesn't pick up the Q, but he does pick out duplicate A's and E's, which is actually just kind of making things worse. But it could get to the point where what if Matthew bingos here and doesn't actually manage to get to play the Q? He
Yeah,
might get Q.
his choice of bingo here is massively important. He should actually, because he has two blanks, he can kind of craft his bingo to accomplish whatever he wants. I mean, he needs to score as well on top of all that, but he might try to bingo in such a manner that it creates multiple Q opportunities. So he's maybe put the U in space and also leave the T's kind of separate from each other so he can draw into COT, QAT. But easier said than done.
Yeah. He probably will need to try and make one of those blanks an I, so at least he has some kind of spot. And also crucially is that there's only 7 tiles in the bag now, so he is guaranteed to pick up the Q if he bingos now. So he will lose the game if he cannot play the Q. He is not. He won't be far enough ahead going into the end game after a bingo. Adam will have some. Well, he actually doesn't have that many options, so it's going to be very close um, going into the end of the game here. I'm trying to see what that is actually in the bag still. So there's an wait. What is this? There's IINOQRT. I think that's what it is. So he actually might end up picking up the Q and the I and an N. So it might still be okay.
Very
Uh,
nice. And he's decided not to bingo. I think this is, I was going to bring this up as an opportunity.
yeah,
I think it makes a ton of sense. Um, the well, it's a tough calculus because Matthew has seen the Q on the horizon and said, "Nope, I want no part of that." Um, but the problem is that he he is giving Adam the maximal amount of time to groom his own rack. So, Adam might be able to, if he can improve his rack here, maybe play off an A and an E and still dodge the Q. He may just be giving Adam time to marshal his resources and come up with a bingo. While that doesn't look like a good combo with 5 vowels, even playing off one tile here, he could, for instance, he could play off an E and he could try to draw into paraneat or, uh, yeah. But Adam, the calculus here is probably going to be that he's going to want to also play very, very short. He knows that with Matthew's play, that's probably a sign that both the blanks and the S are all unavailable to him.
yeah.
So there's very little incentive to dig into the rack too far. Wow, he plays X-Seat for 16. That is
Wow. Okay.
absolutely not what I would have done. That's fascinating.
So yeah, I mean, you were saying about Paraneat. There's other options like Patinate. If you just played off 2 E's, there's actually 2 I's and 2 T's unseen as well. So he just picked up the I and the T. So if he did fish off those two tiles, he actually would have potentially drawn into Patine. But he did draw out the Q as well. So that kind of makes things a lot more difficult for Adam now because he doesn't have a place to play it. So he is
Um,
going to be stuck with that tile till the end of the game unless Matthew opens up a spot for him uh, anytime soon. But if Matthew has just fished off for the T for lit, I'm kind of expecting that he's going to just keep fishing until there's one tile in the bag. He's just going to try and aim to go out with a bingo, or maybe just play off one tile at a time here, and maybe just play off the U because in case he picks up the Q. I'm sorry, just play off the O, sorry, and play do that, something like that, like the like Gov. He's just going to keep going. So if he actually gets pick up the Q, he has things like Squires or anything like or Esquire with poise. He is basically quids in for a win here. He just needs to keep fishing whatever he picks out the bag, essentially, and he'll guarantee to have a huge bingo in multiple spots.
but he could still lose if Adam. No, okay, I see what you mean. Even if Adam were to bingo, he would that would imply that Adam doesn't have the Q, and then Adam would be almost guaranteed to pick up the Q, and Matthew would be able to be the last player to bingo, and he'd get all the points on Adam's rack, including 20 for the Q and whatever else. So yeah, I see exactly what you mean now. Um,
Yeah,
I really am not sure what was on Adam's mind with Exit. Did he think that he had a chance of drawing a blank or an S? I guess that's he doesn't know what we know about those letters being off of Matthew's rack. So that's a fearless play, actually. Now that I think about it some more, I kind of like the courage, but he's in big trouble here. I don't know. I actually Adam could try to block as many bingo lines as possible, uh, and just hope that Matthew is has somehow stumbled across an awkward combination. He could even do something. Uh, well, man,
well,
this one hurts to ride along.
yeah. I mean, the thing is that Matthew knows he has the S and the two blanks for Jaws, so Esquire will never really get blocked. And that's going to put the Q on the triple letter square. He's going to get like almost 100 points for that if he picks up the Q. And if Adam has the Q, then he can't play anything. So he just knows that as long as he just keeps winding down the time with the Q on his rack or not on his rack, then he's going to be okay. There's nothing really much for Matthew to kind of really try and do here. He can also play equines as well, if and poise, getting the Q on the double letter square and doubling the word as well. So he's going to be fishing off that N, keeping EISU blank blank, and just waiting for the Q to turn up on his rack. And if not, he will just bingo with some other high prob bingo in any of the spots he wants. Because he has the case S and he has the case blanks. So there's no danger for any of the exceeds, Jaws, or Poise. Well, I guess you can still play Poise, but any of those, they're not all blockable at the same time.
How
So,
many letters are in the bag right now?
so in the bag, there's only two tiles left.
So
And
I
in
think, I,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
just
go
like
ahead.
just from Adam's point of view, also the letters unseen for him is root. Wait, actually, let me just wait. No, you keep talking. I think I messed something up real quick. Um,
Okay. Well, I think Adam is in pretty desperately poor circumstances here. I think maybe the best he can do is to set himself up to bingo if Matthew exposes a U in space. So he could actually fish off a tile here. Um, and it may also put some fear into, yeah, exactly. So he's played off the E. So he's going to try uh, he's going to hope that he draws something like the R, so that if Matthew bingos, he could play something like antiquer or quainter through Matthew's letter. And
oh,
that E is probably scary to Matthew also, or that one tile play, because Matthew may think that Adam doesn't have the cue, and Matthew can't repeat his gambit of playing one tile because if Matthew plays a tile here, he empties the bag, and Adam, if he doesn't have the cue, he can just bingo and end the game. So Matthew does not have the option
Oh,
anymore of just playing a single tile off.
yes, yes, exactly. And the T is actually in the bag right now, so he could have anything. He could have other bingos, I guess.
So
Um,
he's got to pick a bingo here, and uh, he's what are the 8 letters unseen to Matthew at this
so
point?
it is obviously the 7 letters on Adam's rack plus the T.
A T, right? So
Yeah.
uh, a lot of potential bingos available. A tainer. He has to block a tainer, and that might be the only playable bingo that Adam has. But he has to block a tainer and not give up a spot for antiquer or quainter. I think a bingo down from poise might just do the job. But then it's tough to think through because Adam could have a 8 letter bingo through whatever bingo Matthew plays here.
Yeah, I mean the
So
thing that yeah, and also the thing with poise playing down there. So the first 4 tiles of the bingo, maybe starting with an E, would be kind of obscured, but then the final 3 letters in rows 11, 12, and 13 would actually be open for A-letter words. But if he played something through the A of exceed, which would score slightly less, the first 5 letters of what he would play would be obscured, and it would just give away the final 2 letters. So maybe playing through the A or even playing through the T of exceed would be a bit easy to compute because you're only giving away 2 actual floaters. But he would need to place the U in a place where he doesn't actually give anything away. It looks like he'd actually played Hayen.
fearless.
I actually don't know if there was actually a playable. I guess you said about Athena, but don't know if he actually saw that or not. Did he see that? Because he actually
Wow.
ended up going through a situation where he has a 1 in 8 chance of losing. Like, is that good enough?
Wow. I think I think that was the right move because he called Adams' bluff there because he looked at the board. I think he realized there was nowhere to play a Q for several turns. So cumulative, especially with exit turning over 3 tiles, there's a fair chance that Adam had picked up the Q along the way. I think he read Adams' attempt to bluff there. That was absolutely fearless. That's
Well,
outstanding.
I mean, yeah. The only thing is that if he plays the ad and then Adam plays Athena, and then he picks up the Q, would he still lose?
Oh, he would definitely lose. He loses to a
Yeah.
tainer, but he was just playing the odds that there's something like a 4 out of 5 chance that Adam had the Q on his rack. There's like an 80% chance because Adam's physically incapable of playing the Q anyway, right? So if you
Yeah.
look cumulatively at the last few turns, he calculated that more likely than not, Adam had the Q. But yeah, it wasn't 100% chance. So very, very interesting stuff. And Matthew here gets to slot down something classy. I see suicide underneath Trank. But yeah, it looks like Matthew O'Connor in first place in the tournament is going to remain in first place with some really interesting uh, end of game shenanigans. This is some cool, just probability poker esque head to head action that you just witnessed.